Good evening, fellow rippers. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to beautiful Central Florida. Mick here with Grip It, Rip It, Chip It. Well, kind of beautiful Central Florida. It's really kind of rainy right now. Just had a big thunderstorm come through and it's still raining. You might hear thunder in the background. Today I am coming at you from my house, my backyard, because today's video is a little different but very important and very exciting. Why is that? Because the mailman came. USPS and UPS both dropped off boxes at my house today. So I'm going to open them up, did a little prep work to get the tape undone. We're going to open it up and see what we got, share it with you guys, tell you what kind of project I got going on. So right over here I have put my boxes down. I'm in the backyard. I was going to do this out in the back driveway area where I had more room, but it's raining, so we're going to do here. So this box came from Pensacola. I bought these off of eBay. Right now I play a set of Adams clubs that are nice, but they were kind of a starter set that I got when Golfsmith was going out of business. It was a full set with a bag and everything, and they're nice clubs. They go far. They hit good when you hit them. They feel good, but they're kind of a starter set. About a year, I think, after those clubs I got them, this set of clubs came out. As soon as I saw them, I fell in love with them, and I knew I wanted a set someday. They're pretty expensive, though, brand new, so I never had a chance to get those brand new. Lately I've decided I wanted to upgrade, get some new clubs. So I got on eBay, I found these, it was a pretty good deal. So let's see what we got. It's a nice Golf Pride grip. KBS Tour Flight extra stiff shaft. And what's down at the end of it? That's right. TaylorMade P790s, baby. That is one beautiful golf club. So these are used. A little bit of wear on. This is the pitching wedge, I think. Pitching wedge here. It's got a little bit of markings on the face, not too bad, but the grooves look like they're in perfect condition. And I have a groove tool, so I'll clean those up just a little bit. But nice, right? Look at that thing. Hopefully this is going to take me to the next level and be able to just spank Hank. You hear that, Hank? I'm coming for you. Look at that. Let's just see what another one looks like in here. Kind of hard to do holding the camera and doing this at once. So, all right, this is the 7-iron. Let's see what it looks like. Oh man, that looks nice. It doesn't even look like it's been used hardly at all. It's pretty sweet. It's got the speed channel there. TaylorMade P790. These are the 2017 version. Not bad. Let's see. So that's the clubs. We'll go through those in a minute. But look what we have back here. Another box. It's a tube. Let's see if we can get the tip off of here. One-handed. Get that little piece out. Okay, there we go. Let's get this guy right here out. So what do we have here? New shafts. These are the Pro Launch Red by Grafalloy. These are stiff shafts. Graphite. Made in China, of course. I think these are like a launch, mid-launch type of shaft. So that's the project we got going on. We're going to take these KBS shafts out, put these Grafalloy shafts in. The new clubs will have a red grip, that's a wind grip, the graphite shafts, and then the red ferrule with that head, and that should look sweet. The next portion of this video is going to be us making those clubs. We're going to take these shafts out, put the new shafts in. These are all 39-inch shafts, they're uncut, so we'll be putting them into the clubs and then cutting down each one to the size we need for the length for the different clubs. I'll probably be using my Adams set to kind of guide to adjust that, but I'm going to, I think, add just a little bit of length to my clubs for those because I've always felt like my clubs were a little too short for me. Alright, so let's get to it. Let's build some clubs. Alright, welcome back, Rippers. I have moved into my garage. The day has come. All the components are here to build the clubs, so we're out in the garage today. It's still a bit rainy outside today, so no golf today. Saturday morning, and out on the course because it's just too wet. It's been raining for a few days here in Florida, so let's take an inventory of what we have and what we're going to be doing today. So the first thing we have is these new graphite Garofalo shafts, Pro Launch Red. So let's take a look at what shaft or what grips I got. These are the red Wind Dry Tack with this kind of, I don't know, weird kind of pattern on it. But these feel nice and soft and tacky. Not too bad. These are mid-size shaft or grip, mid-size grip for the shafts. So those will be nice. And then right here, I have the new ferrules. And these, I ordered these off the internet as well. These are a premium ferrule that I got. They're red with kind of a silver stripe with a white stripe in it. So with the new clubs, it'll have that kind of red grip. The gray and red graphite shaft, the red ferrules, and then down at the silver heads. Should look pretty nice. And then over here, from Golfworks website, we have some centering beads, quick center centering beads for when we put the shafts in the club. And then I do have some little O-rings that I'll tell you about later. And then I have some head weights or shaft head weights just in case I need to weight some of the clubs, because coming out with a steel shaft to a graphite, they might be a little lighter. I might need a little weight in them. And then over here we have the solvent for the grip tape, and then the new grip tapes to put the grips on. And then of course we have the epoxy for putting the shafts into the heads. So should be good to go. So basically what we do is we use this piece, and I got an extra bearing in here I got to take out. So this is the extra bearing. This is a bearing that's positioned inside the rubber gasket of the compression fitting. That just goes in there like that. You screw this back down. There's one of those on each side to hold the shaft on. And then I'm just going to clamp this into my workbench here. And tighten it down. Hang on. I'm going to try to get these lined up so I can put them in there nice. And there we go. Get it nice and tight so it won't move. Then what we're going to do is take the other shaft, other bearing here. The shaft is going to go inside here. So I'm going to put the butt side of the shaft in here. The bearing is going to go over the tip on this side, and then once I pull it down, I'm going to be putting pressure down on the shaft. And I don't know how much of the frame that's in there. Oh yeah, it's got it pretty good. So I'll put pressure down on the shaft. And when we do that, the spine of the shaft should become apparent. So what we're going to do is pressure down, and then I'm just going to slowly turn this by hand. And when I do, and I let go of it, the shaft wants to correct itself to where the spine is, because that's supposedly the stiffest point of the shaft. So it's putting the tension on the flexible side of the shaft, and the spine that's the stiff side is wanting to correct back to itself. So as we turn this and kind of let it go, it's wanting to pull back to where that spine is. This particular shaft is, I don't know if we'll be able to see this on the camera. I'll do a close-up with one of these on the camera to see if we can show how this corrects, but this is wanting to correct back right here. When I let go and I put tension this way and let go, it's wanting to twist itself back. And then if I come this way and let go a little bit past that, it's wanting to come back the other way. So if we go past that point, then it lets me go all the way back around without tension until we get to there, and then it's wanting to correct back. So right there should be the spine of the shaft. So we're going to mark that on this blue tape I have. So I'll bring this over and show you. I noticed that on these shafts, on each one of them, there's this pink dot on here. And the spine is right close to that pink dot. It's just a little bit off to the side. So I'm hoping that that holds true through the rest of the shafts, and that pink dot is maybe where the manufacturer was marking where the spine is. The pink dot is also, for the most part, lined up with the graphics. So it might be that that's where they mark the shaft to then show where they wanted the graphics to be lined up for the spine. I hope. I don't know if they actually, when they manufacture, if they think about that stuff for the spine or not, but hopefully they did. So let's talk about the spine for a second though. Let me see if I can get my piece of paper that I have out here somewhere. Here it is. So what does the spine actually mean, and is it important to know where it is when you put your clubs together? So if you think about, especially on a steel shaft, when they make a steel shaft, it starts out as a flat piece of steel on a huge roll that comes manufactured, and so the particular shaft roll for iron shafts, it might be a roll of steel that's cut to, say, let's say 40 inches wide, and it might be, 500 yards long of thin rolled steel. Then it comes through a machine and they cut strips of it in, I don't know, say an inch wide of this 40-inch steel. And then it goes through a machine, or somehow it gets rolled to where the edges of it come together like that and make a round cylinder for the shaft. Then especially on steel shafts, that gets welded. So when that's put together and welded, that's going to be the strongest point of that shaft. That weld point is going to be stiffer than all this other steel. So that will end up being the spine of the shaft on a steel shaft. So is that important or not? Well, I've heard different things that it is. Some people say it's not. A lot of people like to align their clubs up with the shaft spine in a particular position of the club head or not. So I was doing a little research, and I'm glad I did, because my natural instinct thinking about it was off from what the general consensus is and the research showed of a shaft. So with graphite shafts, they're made a little different. They're layered with different parts. So I wasn't sure if a spine and a shaft of a graphite shaft was as important, but then I read it actually does end up having a spine, and you can see that because there are certain parts of it that are stronger than others. So it's important if you want to line your clubs up. So when I was doing the research and thinking about it, my thought process was, if this is the spine of the shaft and this is the strongest plane of this shaft, and your club head is sitting this way, when you take your club back, this shaft is naturally going to bend side to side easier than it's going to bend this way, because you're having to bend the spine up and down this way. This way it's bending sideways to the spine, so that would flex easier that way. So my thinking was, if you align the spine up parallel to the club face, the flexibility during your swing is going to be parallel to the club face, right? The flexibility up and down, so top above the club and down to the ground, is not going to be as much. So my thought was, there is also a theory that you should turn the shaft perpendicular to the club face so that the spine is facing forward from the club. That giving that this is the strongest plane, so that when you take your club back, it's less likely to flex this way and more likely to be stiff as you come through and more consistent. The problem with that is if you do that, and that's what my initial thought was, I was thinking I want that spine to be stiff as I come through the ball so that it's got the most impact at the position of impacting the ball, right? The problem is when you do it this way, that I can see, is that now the flexibility of the shaft is up and down. So if you take your club back and then you really start to swing down and it flexes, instead of flexing backward and then whipping through the club or through the ball, it could flex up or down. And so now you're not in line with the ball as you come through. So looking at some of the research, what it showed was people that can really hit the ball, say like a 350-yard drive, they could hit it. They do get the stiffness of the shaft through the club face this way, and did get a little bit more yardage on a consistent basis, but it wasn't much. It was only a couple of yards. But they all felt that it was much harder to control the club head because of that flex up and down. So by turning the shaft this way, they only lost a couple of yards in overall distance because of the flexibility of the shaft, but it was much more easy to control because the path of the club face to the ball was going to be more consistent because the flex is going to be back and forth rather than up and down. So hopefully all that made sense. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but that's why with mine, after doing the research, my original thought was I was going to turn the club perpendicular to get the stiff spine of the shaft in line with the ball as it's coming through. Now my thought process is different because I would rather have more consistent path to the ball, and so my spine is going to be parallel to the club face, so it'll be lined up straight up and down. So after doing all the shafts and finding the spine, it turned out that this pink dot is very, very close to that spine. And so that's where this graphics on this shaft are pretty much lined up with the pink dot, and it's very close, within a half an inch of each side to the spine that I found. So what I will probably do is that makes it easy to line up your shaft into the club head. I am going to start with my 3-iron because it's probably going to be the least used club that I have. So that way if I screw up or anything doesn't fit and work right, I'll know it with the 3-iron. I still have my other clubs to play with before I screw those up. So 3-iron is our guinea pig. So this is my little clamp to hold these shafts to make it easy to put it in here. It's a nice rubber shaft or shaft holder. It won't mar up the shaft. I have these because I had re-gripped my old clubs once. So if you're going to be doing this and you have to take old grips off of shafts and you're just putting grips on, you'll need to get one of these little hook knives or hook blades. This is extremely helpful when taking off grips. This usually will come in a kit when you buy a kit to do grips, but this is very, very helpful. Of course I don't need that because my shafts are raw and they don't have any grips on them. So I'm not taking any grips off, and the grips that are on the shafts here are going to be staying on. So we don't need this part of it. And that just holds that club nice for me. I need a new workmate, man. This thing's about had it. The wood's breaking apart and rotten, but this thing is an old Black & Decker workmate workbench, and I bet I've had it at least, man, probably 30 years. Alright, so I've done a couple now. I'm on the 6-iron, and I'm already learning a couple of little tricks, so there's no way I'm going to be able to save the hosels. They're plastic. As soon as they heat up, they start to melt on the tip. So the first thing I do is heat up that corner, or that junction, get the hosel out of the way, and then I have found that if I just keep the heat on here without having to really do too much to the shaft, once I can feel the heat starting to get into the head of the club here, off of the hosel, just with my fingers, then I can put the glove on and just kind of start to twist the head a little bit, and that starts to kind of loosen the glue up, and then as a little bit more heat, it lets it just slide right off. So, you know, kind of learn as you go. So kind of the process that I'm doing, I'm just heating up this junction real quick, and that thing starts to melt right away. So I guess whoever gets the shafts, they're going to have to get their own hosels, because there's no way to really save these. I don't know that you'd want to anyway, because it looks like these are collared ferrules, or with a little countersunk part, and that part of it separates from this. Either that or they put something in there to fill up that gap. So that's getting to melt. Now I can just take my little edge and slide that back a little bit. Maybe. This one's not coming as easy as the other ones, just slid right up. There we go. It's starting to come. There we go. So now that just slides up out of the way. I don't know if you can see, but there's this little red part. I think that's the part that fills in that little space of the collared hosel. So that part just melts off real easy too. Now, I did read a couple of things on the internet where people don't recommend using the heat like this because these clubs have the speed foam in them, in the head. They think you can melt the speed foam and everything. I don't know. I don't have a shaft puller, so this is the way I have to do it. I don't think it'll melt the speed foam way down here because this isn't hot too much. It doesn't get really hot down there. But once I pull this out of the way, this stuff just kind of slides up. And then the rest of this stuff will just melt off. And what I've been doing is putting the heat down onto the shaft into the ferrule from this angle, because a lot of that stuff you're trying to get it off of the shaft, not so much out of the ferrule, because I'm going to be reaming that out anyway. So if I can get it to loosen up off of this shaft, then I can feel this is getting hot already. Once I feel this part down here getting hot, then I can put the glove on and just kind of twist a little bit, and then the 5-iron one, I didn't have to even hold the shaft, I just pulled it right off. The clamp is holding it enough to where it just comes off. So kind of learn as you go, little tricks. And if you have all the right equipment, if you're actually a club builder, they have all the clamps and all the things, you know, shaft pullers and belt sanders and everything that you need to do this. I'm kind of doing it with what I have available, so. But it's kind of fun to learn. It's starting to get hot. So now what I can do is hold the head, just try to give it a little twist, and right now the shaft is still twisting with the head in the clamp. So I know it's not quite ready yet. But here pretty soon that'll start to give way, and then that will pull right off. And then that way I know I'm not heating it up too much, just enough to get it off. So now it's starting to spin, and the shaft is not spinning. So now I know it's hot enough I can just pull that right off there. So that's how it goes. 6 iron is down. Alright, so all the heads are out. All the shafts are out of the heads. Here is the heads laying down on the ground, cooling off. The 3 and 4 and 5, all these on the front side here, they should be cool. These are the ones I just got out, so they're still probably cooling off. And then here are the shafts. KBS Tour Extra Stiff. They will be on eBay shortly, so if you're interested in KBS Extra Stiff shafts or know somebody that is, they're available. Alright, next on the agenda is we have to clean out these hosels, because I'm going to shine the light in here. I don't know if you'll be able to see. There's all that junk left over, and there's a blue piece, a little plug that was in the tip of the shaft that's down in there, and all that junk left over from the residue of the epoxy, so we got to clean that out. So how am I going to do that? I am going to use my Dremel with this little burring bit on it. I'm just going to put it on a real slow speed and go in and clean all that stuff out. So let me adjust the camera down a little so you guys can see when I do it. You don't want to go too fast with this because you don't want to take any of the surface of the metal out. So just on the slow speed, just really easy go along the rim there and get all this stuff out. Now I'm going to go down deeper into the hosel and try to clean all that other stuff out. And you can kind of feel it. It just kind of, it's almost like a blender. It just emulsifies that stuff. But then at the very tip I can feel that blue plug that's down there. So along the edges it comes out pretty quick and clean. And the nice thing about this particular burr is it roughs up the surface of the hosel so that the epoxy will have something to hold on to good. But we got to get down on that. There, that little blue thing's starting to get bunched up in there. There we go. You can kind of hear it grinding away on that thing. And you'll make sure you get all that stuff out of there so it's nice and smooth and clean, so that the new epoxy grabs good, so your club head doesn't go flying off when you're playing. Which, to be honest, since I'm not a professional club maker, that might happen when we go play next time. I'm hoping it won't. My wedge, I had to do this once before because I bought a set of wedges. And they're Wilson wedges, and I like Wilson equipment, but I got these wedges. It's a 52, a 56, and a 60-degree wedge. And when I first got them, I took them out to the driving range at the Disney driving range, and with the 56 degree, about the 5th time I hit it, boom, the head of the club went flying down the down the driving range almost as far as the ball went. So I went and picked it up, and it was just not put together very well, and it came off. So I had to clean it out, get some new epoxy, and put it together. And to be honest, I was in a rush. I was playing the next day. I wanted to get it done, so I actually went to Home Depot and just bought some Gorilla Glue epoxy and put it together with that. It's still holding. It's still doing good. All right. Now we're down to clean metal. So let me see if I can put the light in there and see if you guys can see that down in there. Pretty good, huh? It's kind of hard to get it lined up, but there's the end product, so it's nice and smooth and cleaned out in there. Get all the dust particles out and it'll be ready for epoxy. Alright, so it's time to mix up our epoxy. I'm going to make two separate parts to it. One piece over here for the, just to put the hosels on, and then the other piece with the centering beads to, so this one doesn't need to be very big. This one's going to be the one to actually put the club heads on with the centering beads. I'm not going to use too much because this stuff is so quick setting. I don't know that I'll get all the way through all the clubs. I may need this again for the rest of them. So we need to mix this up, get it good and blended. I have two teas here, one for the hosel stuff and one for the actual shaft. So this stuff sets up in about 4 to 7 minutes, starts to gel to where it's only got a very short working time, but it starts to harden quick. It's a quick setting one. So now where's my centering bead stuff? Here it is. I got to put these in a little bit on top, mix that in. Not too much. That's supposed to help center the shaft into the hosel. So we'll get that there. So then I also have a little, I'm going to just put a little bit on here as a lubricant. Put a ferrule on, small side toward the grip, and get it started. And then I have this socket with a rubber mallet to just kind of get it down far enough. And then this one's going to help me center it over the shaft and get it down where I can get the club head on. So we'll get this down far enough to get out of the way. And then we'll put a little bit of this goop on the shaft here. I'm going to get a little bit and add into the hosel. That there, and then we'll start to put this down in here. You can hear the grit of those, and then we're going to make sure it's down in there. Wipe off some excess. Try to get that all off quick because this stuff starts to set up and then it's a pain in the butt to get off. So I have some alcohol here. I'm just going to rub that and try to clean that off a little bit on that hosel. And then what we got to do is make sure it's down in there. It doesn't look far enough. I'm going to move this. Shoot, I'm not going to do it with that though. That'll make a mess. I'll turn this upside down. See if we can hammer this in. That ain't going to work. We got to get this way and hammer it down. Now feels good, I guess. Now we'll line up our spline where we want it. And then what we're going to do is take a piece of tape and put a tape across that hosel and across that ferrule just to kind of help hold it, I guess. Getting that ferrule down far enough is the key, I think. Unfortunately, the black line I put is on a black. So we'll put that like that and see, hopefully that'll help to hold it in place. We're going to turn this back upside down to dry for the day. Alright, Rippers, back in the garage today. Club heads are on. They should be good and set, good and dry. We're going to unwrap all this stuff off of here. Looks pretty good. They feel pretty tight. Now it's time to cut the shafts down to size. So we'll get all these unwrapped. We'll cut the size down on the shaft, and then we'll get the grips on. So I'm going to get the 4-iron. I have a 3-iron now, and this is a 4 hybrid, and the 3-iron is just a little bit longer, I don't know if you can see that, than this 4 hybrid. So obviously the 3-iron should be a little bit longer club. So I don't think I have to cut this down. I'm just going to put the shaft on this. Should be good to go for that. So the 3-iron is good. So I'm going to wrap the shaft with the tape and then mark the area where I want to cut. And then you want to leave the tape on when you're cutting so that it'll hopefully help keep it from splintering the shaft. I have a brand new hacksaw blade. I'm going to be using a hacksaw blade by hand. I do have an air tool that's a cutoff wheel, but I've never done a graphite shaft before, and I feel more comfortable doing it by hand so I can go slow. Alright, so I'm just going to go on this one just a little bit off of the top. I'm going to go to the top of where this grip ends and mark there for our measurement, and that's going to be the 4-iron. And we'll let you see me hopefully try to cut this shaft off right where we need it, so then we can put the grip on. Doesn't matter, we don't have to go fast, we just want to get a nice smooth, clean cut. What I need is a new workbench, that's what I need. Or I need to just redo the wood for these. Put new pieces of plywood instead of this particle board crap that breaks apart. But like I said, this Workmate's about at least 25 years old. Alright, getting close to the end here. Now I'm going to come from up under here and get so that we don't splinter on with taking it off. Alright, feels good. Alright, so we'll overlap the tape off of the end just a little bit to keep the fluid from going down into the shaft, hopefully, as you put it on. So you overlap about a 1/4 inch and then kind of fold it over and plug the end of the shaft. Tape goes on and wraps around, and then you wet it down. This is 2-sided, so it's going to have 2 different adhesion things on it. So I'm going to try to take this one off first. We'll just throw that to the side. I guess I probably should take the bigger one off. We're going to line this up just about a 1/4 inch long. Get this all cleaned off from that graphite. About a 1/4 inch too far. Kind of line it up in the center. And then wrap it around. Now we can peel off this outer layer. Make sure that's good and stuck on that shaft all the way around it. You don't want any ridges that you're going to feel underneath the grip. If you get a big old bulge in this tape, you might feel it. So we take that off, and then we're just going to fold this over the tip to keep that from getting stuff in it. We have the grip solvent here. We're going to put a little bit in the actual grip. And we're going to shake that around in there. I'm just going to pour the excess on here and then put a little bit on here. Shouldn't take a whole lot. And now we got our dry tack set up. If I can get this started, it should go right on here and slide right on. Ooh. I don't have to hold that down. Slide this right up on, and then we can line it up as we get it on here. Here's the dry tack label, the thumb part right here, club head shaft right there. Make sure it's all the way up on there, and it's good to go. There's the new clubs. Wind dry tack, kind of a red camel looking thing. I don't know what you'd call that design on there. And then we got our Pro Launch red shafts. Got the red line here, and then graphite color down all the way down to our red hosel with the white and silver stripe, and then the silver head. Yeah, those look nice. Sweet, huh? So, what are some of the things I learned doing this? Some tips or tricks that I would tell you if you decide to do this yourself. Number one, make sure you have everything that you need ready to go so that you're not having to go back and forth looking for stuff. I think one thing I would do different with the club heads and the ferrules is if you take your club head, when you have the shaft prepped and you have the head hosel all cleaned out and ready to go, and you put the club head on to see how far up the shaft it's going to fit, what I think I would do next time is mark that point of where the club head ends, and then put a ferrule just next to it to see how far up the ferrule goes. And then on that shaft, right where that ferrule ends, or where it's supposed to end, I think what I would do is put a piece of tape on the shaft like this before assembling, so that then when you put the ferrule on and you tap it down, you know how far to take the ferrule so you don't go too far. A couple of them I went too far and I had to take them back up, and what happens, you get a little bit of gap in there, and I don't know if you can see, but the epoxy that I had was black, and you'll see a little tiny black line in there. Not a big deal, but you can kind of clean that up. But I think that's what I would do next time, is mark where the ferrule is supposed to end, take it just below that, and then use the club head to take it the rest of the way so that ends up nice and tight against the club head. So that's the one thing I would do different. The second thing I would do, make sure that you have, when you're doing the ferrules, you either want to get one of those ferrule tools that's like a hollow, like a socket almost, or if you have a deep socket kit, just get the one that fits like I used eventually, and that's a good way to just push the ferrule down onto the shaft, because they are pretty tight, and I wasn't able to just use the club head to push them down the way I wanted because I couldn't get it centered over the shaft. So the socket worked good, so I would make sure that you have either the ferrule tool or a socket that fits over the top to push the ferrules down. Other than that, I would do, when you're ready to assemble the club heads, I think what I would do is, if you're going to use quickset epoxy, I would only put enough epoxy out for one club, because I was trying to put a little bit more out and try to get 2 or 3 clubs at a time, and that stuff sets up just too quick, and you're not going to get to very many clubs. So if you do just enough, mix it up for one club, and then you don't need very much, and there's plenty of it in that dual syringe to do all your clubs. So just mix up enough for just one club, do the one club, get it all set the way you want it, don't worry about how quick that stuff's setting up, and then just make a new batch for the next club. Or go to the stuff that's not quick set. Use the kind that gives you a lot longer working time. If you want to be able to do all your clubs in a row and you have them lined up and you can just grab one and do the next and you're good at it, just use the kind that doesn't set up so quick. It takes longer to dry, but if you're going to leave them overnight anyway, who cares? And one of the tips that I saw online was, once you're done, if you use that longer setting stuff, once you're done doing it, just leave the cardboard piece or whatever with your stir stick out, and then the next day when you come back to it, you can check that and see if it's all set up and good and hard. That you'll know the clubs are too. So I like the quick stuff, but I would just do one club at a time. I had plenty to do it eventually when I was learning that it was setting up too quick, but if you just put a little bit out, it'd be better. So other than that, kind of learn as I go. I'm really glad I did it. Kind of got a custom made club for me now with these nice grips and these shafts. These are stiff shafts, graphite, compared to the extra stiff shafts that were in here. All right, other than that, I will see you on the course. We'll give these a try and see how they work. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the video, hit the like button down below. Give us a like. Hit the subscribe button. Become a subscriber. Join Ripper Nation, and hit that bell so when you hit the new videos come out, you won't miss them. Ding ding. That'll pop up in your email, and you won't miss anything. So remember, tee it high, let it fly. Grip it, rip it, and chip it. We will see you next time.